So yeah, I've been thinking about getting a water cooling system for my computer because I don't know if it's just like the angle or something that it lays on or whatever, but every now and then the fan just like hits that angle and just makes this loud as hell whirring noise.
Okay.
And I've just got to like give it a little tap, and that's it. But like sometimes, especially if it's like late at night and I've been using Plex or something, and I couldn't be bothered to turn off my computer, like I can just hear it like loud as hell because everything's so quiet.
That would get really annoying.
Yeah, it does. um, and like I'm not a big modification guy for PC, but I'm like if that means I don't have to hear my stupid computer, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, true. But you get like a long stick to use as like your tapper.
Yeah, but then I can guarantee you one day I'll push the stick like through the metal or something, and it does have a glass door on the side, so no doubt I'll break it. Knowing my luck, I'll
Yeah.
just smash the hell out of the glass. I'll hit it right in that sweet spot. You know when like you see in the movies when they hit it in the sweet spot and the glass just shatters.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you that's what will happen.
You definitely do that.
How you been anyway? It's, to address, I guess, the elephant in the room, even though there might be another recording released before this one, it's been quite some time since we recorded. How have you been?
Yeah, I've been doing pretty good. God, it's been that long. I don't even know what has been like new since that last recording, but I've started a new job. I've had COVID. And you did too, didn't you?
Yeah, that actually delayed our recording of this episode by like a week because we were all ready to record, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, I'm dying. I would like to not sit up for more than 10 minutes, please.
Yeah, it's pretty hectic. Like I'd been told by people before I actually got it recently that, it's not that bad now. Like you don't even really feel it when you get it. That wasn't the case for either of us.
No, I mean, like the worst symptoms didn't last that long. Like it was only like a day or so of like the body aches and stuff, but it took well over a week for me to like be able to like do anything with any real energy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I was pretty much the same. I think that was the worst thing, was just like that extended time of, not feeling yourself and being really tired and just not doing anything.
well, that's it. I was looking after Amber's dog while I had COVID, and I would like take her for her walk and then come home and sleep myself.
Oh man,
because I was just like that. Just a walk around the block would take it out of me. It was so annoying.
Yeah, that's rough.
Well, that seems like a good place as any to get into the this week's actual episode, eh?
Yeah, sounds good.
Let's go.
Almost a jibble sandwich.
So, tell me, Potato, what games have you been playing lately? Did you ever get around to playing the 73 Nintendo Switch games that I lent you to try
out? So I actually started Breath of the Wild.
Mm-hmm.
But
how far through it are you?
Have
you finished the tutorial even?
Is that just like the first area?
When you get the glider.
Okay, I've gotten the glider and I've just left. And that's where I've stopped playing.
Oh my god. It's only been about 6 months, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was a while ago you gave me that game.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't 6 months ago, but it was... Yeah, because you came over that one time and I gave you a bunch of games to try out.
Yeah.
But then I did steal your TV adapter thing, so apparently that has been a bit of a thing to stop you from playing.
Yeah, I think because that's generally how I like to play. So I think once I have that back, I'll probably be more inclined to start playing again.
Well, I was going to bring it back over yesterday, sorry, but someone decided to change their mind and stuff. So I was like, whatever.
Yeah, rude. Hey, I had snacks and stuff ready to go.
Man, I was down for the snacks.
But yeah, I know, and I got dog blocked, which I was really disappointed about.
Oh yeah, we were going to bring Sunny around.
Yeah,
That would have
that's
been,
all
yeah.
right.
She would have loved it too. She loves because new people means more pats, and the more pats, the happier the Sunny.
She would have been very happy.
And absolutely. So yeah, other than the Switch, have you I believe like me, you've been on the supermarket together train a fair bit.
Yes, so I've only played that a few times so far, but that's been really fun, especially playing it multiplayer with friends. And just
apparently it's up to 14 players. So and apparently the more players you have, the more picky and stuff the customers get. So they'll be complaining more about prices and stuff. So I'm really keen to hop on with as many people as we can at some point.
Yeah, well, I think there's definitely a few more people that I can try and talk into playing. So I reckon we'd get a good group going.
Can you imagine that and then setting it to the highest difficulty as well?
It'd be chaos.
Absolute chaos as well.
Yeah.
Or we could just do the that thing where, remember how I accidentally set it to a public game that one time and then randoms? We thought we thought they were NPCs, but they're actually just randoms joining the game.
Yeah. Yeah, and they started screwing around with all your settings and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be pretty hectic too. That would be funny to see how that played out.
I played solo the other day because everyone was busy and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I got up to day 18. I just left it on, the normal 0 difficulty or whatever, just because just learning how to play and stuff. And I think I've picked up some tricks that may help us get money quicker and stuff.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, because we were starting to get to a point the other night too where we were actually making a profit. So yeah, that'll be good.
I'm not necessarily making a huge profit in the game at the moment, but I'm finishing every day with $6,000 or so.
Oh, that's way better than what we were doing.
Yeah, and the only reason I'm not starting the day with that money is because I'm obviously restocking the shelves and stuff and making sure that, and the more stock you have as well, the less you kind of run out of stock initially, because if you've only got a couple of products, that's all they can buy. You know what I mean? So
true. Yeah.
So counterintuitively, you kind of want to get a bit more stock quicker, so you have to buy a little bit less stock for a bit. But anyway, that's another story. I'm sure we can stream or upload or something, or just talk about it in length another day.
Because we're going to be sales experts by the time we get through this game.
Mate, I'm just employing all my 12 years of what was it? Transport and logistics training. I've actually got a certificate, TAFE degree, whatever. Cert 3 or probably a Cert 4 in logistics and transport.
Okay.
That I can do almost nothing with right now.
It's got to be useful for something, right?
As long as it's a job where I don't have to do any of the physical work, I'll be fine, because of that stupid clotting thing.
Yeah.
But
we haven't really talked about that, have we?
Not here on the podcast, I don't believe.
No.
Yeah, just for listeners who weren't aware, I used to be / technically still am a pro wrestler. And I got a 1 centimeter clot in my right radial artery leading to my thumb. It was 1 centimeter long. I thought I might lose my thumb. Luckily, I kept it. But pretty much now, if I do anything physical, the clots, I've got a condition called Thiener Hammer syndrome. which means the clot can come back at any point from hard impacts. But in discovering what was wrong, they also found out that I have something called latent factor 5 deficiency, which is one of the steps of the, like what makes your blood clot healthily, and when you get a cut, how it stops bleeding and stuff. So it gives me a higher risk for getting clots in the future with both of them combined. And the next time I get a clot, rather than it going towards the end of my thumb, it could head towards a vital organ, which is not great news.
Yeah.
It just was like I said, up until a couple of years ago, very active professional wrestler, making money, traveling up and down. All my life I've done like warehousing types of jobs to support my spending habits, my gaming and my music and stuff. So it just means basically, while I'm not able to do those jobs I used to do, I'm just trying to retrain or relearn or something in like an office job or something. But when you get to my age and you don't have experience in those jobs, I'm sure people listening know how hard it is to get jobs these, like especially at the moment, especially when you don't have any experience in that field. So that's just been a big setback. One of the reasons why I'm doing this, other than the fact that I just love to talk about games and movies and TV shows and stuff. Speaking of TV shows, I've nearly finished watching all of Agatha All Along.
Oh, nice. I am still to watch that, but it looks really good.
It is even better than I thought it was going to be. Like, I thought it was going to be good because WandaVision was good.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm almost starting to think that it might be better than WandaVision.
Ah, interesting.
It's just going to depend on... So I think we've got 3 episodes left for the season. It's just going to depend on how a couple of things pan out.
Okay. Oh, that sounds pretty promising.
It's definitely not bad, we'll put it that way.
Okay.
But
all right, I'll definitely have to get onto that one.
So much. I think I was describing to you the other day how I started rewatching all the MCU movie, like the complete timeline.
Yes. Oh man, which is insane in itself. I feel like I would never have the time for that, but yeah, that's pretty cool.
I've got the time for it, and I still don't have the time for it.
Yeah, there's just so much.
There's so much, and you can only watch, just like anything, like, trying to watch Lord of the Rings or all the Star Wars, like each trilogy back to back. Like, even trying to do that's hard, let alone when you're trying to watch 20 plus movies plus all the series. It's like, you can only, maybe 2 movies a day maximum I can handle if I really tried. But even then, I just finished the Avengers and Thor: The Dark World. So in timeline order, starting at Captain America, then Captain Marvel, I think I'm like 7 or 8 movies in. And like,
okay.
I've only just gotten past the first Avengers movie. So it's like Jesus Christ, this is going to take...
Still got a long way to go. That's actually because I finished the 2nd season of Rings of Power, which I loved.
See, that's a show that I haven't gotten around to because I'm busy watching other stuff.
Like I've heard a couple of people complain about the show, but I've really enjoyed it.
Is it about the orcs?
No, I think it was more the 1st season.
Okay. I've heard some rumblings on the onlines of people complaining about the orcs because like they don't realize that originally orcs come from elves. They just think of orcs as the Uruk-hai from the Lord of the Rings movies where they're like made from mud and stuff and whatever.
Yeah, that's right. Because I think there's actually in the 2nd season there's an orc that has a partner and a child, and I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, what the hell? Like they've never had, since when do they have,
Yeah.
females and children kind of thing. So
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest Lord of the Rings nerd myself, but like I know enough to know that like there's so much like lore and backstory and
oh yeah,
like the like I knew that the orcs originally came from elves, which
Yeah.
originally when I learned it I thought was just meant to be like the lore of elves in general, but then I found out it was specific to the Tolkien world. So
Okay.
I kind of learned like a double trivia, I guess.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and I think maybe like with the first season, the rumbles that I heard were more about, it's not exactly canon. But neither the movies aren't either.
So the thing with that is, right, is like obviously almost anything new from the Lord of the Rings can't be canon, right? Because Tolkien's dead. Like, literally
Yeah.
can't come on. But the thing is that he wrote a book. If you're not familiar with all this stuff, he wrote a book called The Silmarillion, which was either never finished or he didn't finish it. His son finished it off or something. And it's like just a lot of lore and backstory and telling you like did you know that all the wizards in the Lord of the Rings are actually like basically angels or some kind of god deity things?
Yeah, I have actually heard that.
That's why there's only so many on Earth or Middle Earth or whatever at one time, and blah blah blah. Explains the history
Yeah.
of the Numenorians and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So like, even though the TV show isn't like canon, they've probably taken what they can from like the Silmarillion and some of the other works explaining the backstory, and just kind of going, okay, let's make a story out of this, because there's a whole thing about Sauron, because Sauron wasn't the first big bad. Like
No,
I'm pretty sure
I
in
think
the
it's
show
Morgoth is the original one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That sounds about right. I don't know it that well. I just know that there was someone that was the original, who was like the original Sauron, and then there was Sauron and like another guy, like two like lieutenant type characters.
Yeah.
And then Sauron eventually, he wants the power for himself, and then creates the rings and blah 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 blah. And obviously that's what the Rings of Power is sort of leading to, I would assume, without having seen it.
Yeah, and that's pretty much exactly it. So the first season is, I guess showing, like, setting up for how the rings are going to be made.
Yeah, right.
And like all the characters that are involved with that, getting their placement as well. So you've got like a younger Elrond, a younger Galadriel, Sauron.
Yeah, because
Gandalf.
For people who don't know, this Rings of Power takes place like 1,000 years before Lord of the Rings, maybe even more than that. Maybe it's 10,000 years. I don't remember which, but it's quite some time.
Yeah,
in the
something
past.
like that. Yeah. So it's pretty much set up for when Sauron is, actually starting to try and take power and make the rings. Yeah, it's really good.
Nice. Do you get to see like Sauron like actually in like some kind of a human form? Because to me that would just be weird. Like I can't picture him as anything but the eye or the armor thing that they did for the movie. Like
okay. Well, you don't even see the eye or the armor in these two seasons. Like you see him in other forms. I don't want to give away too much if you plan on watching it, but
I do plan on watching it. But I know that for a fact the eye comes after he gets killed, because that's like the eye is basically his like spirit form.
Yeah. Okay.
Or whatever, looking over God. So I'm like, I say one super nerdy thing, and then I can't think of the fucking Mordor. That's it. I was like, Isengard. No, that's where they take the hobbits. They take the hobbits to Isengard, and they take the ring to Mordor.
That song's gonna be in my head all night now.
Have you seen the video clip of Orlando Bloom doing we're taking the hobbits to Isengard thing?
No.
So like Peter Jackson's holding up like an iPad or something. Whatever it is, couldn't have been an iPad back then, but he's holding up something and it's playing we're taking the hobbits to Isengard, God, and he pulls it down and it'll be Orlando Bloom like finishing off like the God, we're taking the hobbits, we're taking the hobbits, we're taking the hobbits.
Oh my God, that's amazing. I'll have to find that.
It could have been an iPad actually, because he could have recorded it during making the Hobbit instead of it being Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings. Yeah, that would make sense.
But either way, it's bloody hilarious.
And then sorry.
I was gonna say I love it when a celebrity can like take some celebrities see shit like that and get like real offended, but then others like just take it on board and go like I love this, it's amazing. I
Yeah,
love it
it's
when they do
always
that.
same. So I was actually like mentioning the Rings of Power because I finished watching those 2 seasons and then I actually started watching the Hobbit movies in order again.
I both love and hate the Hobbit movies. Like
I love them.
the thing is, and this is the complaint that a lot of people have, the Hobbit, the book itself is like. Firstly, it's literally a children's book. He wrote it for his kids
Okay.
because he was like an English literary professor, and he was like he had this like world in his head, and he was like, I'm going to write a story for my kids. So it's more of a kids book. Like it's not like a little kids book, more like a like a young adult's book or something.
Okay.
But secondly, it's like hang on, I've got it right here. Let me tell you how many pages it is.
All right.
Okay, so this isn't like the original copy. This is like a modern copy, but the last page is 365. Now let me just go and tell you about the number of the last page of. Oh, by the way, so this book is about the size of my hand in total, like an average size looking book.
Okay.
Like maybe like 2 centimeters thick, just like not even A4 size page, like maybe like an A5 page thing, 365 pages.
Okay.
Now I grabbed the Fellowship of the Ring, which it's not much bigger than my hand. Like it's definitely bigger, but not like huge, just not massive. It's probably more like 4 centimeters, 3 centimeters thick, ish, an inch maybe. And the last page is where are we? The last page is 398, and that's just the Fellowship of the Ring. That's just the first part.
So with the book for The Hobbit, because there's 3 movies, because I haven't actually read the books. Is there only one book?
There's just one book. It's just The Hobbit.
Ah, okay.
And that one book is less than just the Fellowship of the Ring in pages, and with like smaller pages and slightly bigger writing too. The writing in The Hobbit is like literally a little bit bigger than what it is in the Fellowship of the Ring. And again, this isn't the original editions; these are just more modern editions. So there's, they're I think originally the Lord of the Rings came all in one book itself, like the part 1, part 2, part 3 is more of a from the movies thing, or like in the middle of the book it'd be like part 2 of the book is the Two Towers or something, but it was still just like one continuous book. Let me just put my book away. So yeah, my main problem with so imagine you've got 398 odd pages times 3. So, roughly 1,200 pages of story into 3 movies. That kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But then you've got, less than the first book alone of pages spread over 3 movies that take about just as long to watch. So
well, yeah, that's got me curious. So, how accurate is the movies to the book?
I'm not the expert to ask on this, but all I know for sure is there's things like Radagast actually isn't in The Hobbit. He was meant to be in Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
So they did the old switcheroo there, and I was like, oh, well, we didn't put him in Lord of the Rings, so we'll put him in The Hobbit instead.
Right.
And, like, I'm sure the big story beats are the same, but with, like, to spread out to 3 films, there's got to be, like, a lot of filler and stuff. Also, Legolas isn't in The Hobbit. He's literally just there because everyone loves Legolas.
Oh, okay. So I'm guessing like Tamriel, who's the elf that falls in love with one of the dwarves. Is she?
She could be real. That part could be there. But I just know that, like, I think you see Legolas's dad in The Hobbit, which I forget his name.
Yeah, he is in it.
But like,
geez, I've forgotten his name now.
Same, but like, I think he's in the Hobbit book,
Okay.
and then when you get to the Lord of the Rings, you find out with the way that he writes his books, he's like, this is Legolas, son of whoever from the Hobbit movie or whatever.
Okay. All right. That makes sense.
Um, just like how I don't think they mention it in the Hobbit book, but how Gimli is the son of Gloin, the dwarf.
Yes. So I don't know about the book, but it is mentioned briefly in the movies.
Yeah, and again, I think they just did that in the movie because, again, I think it's the other way around where it gets mentioned in the Lord of the Rings that Gimli, my father was Gloin and went on
Okay.
a
Yep.
big adventure with Gandalf many years ago and blah blah blah.
Okay. Yep. That makes sense.
But again, I'm not a Lord of the Rings expert. I do have the books, and obviously I'm quite knowledgeable on a few things, but I'm sure that there's going to be someone listening to this that's just going to call me out on everything that I said and be like, no, you're wrong. You're way more experty than me on the matter.
Oh, both of us. I haven't even read the books, so
I tell you, it's a hard read. And it's
I've heard that.
It's not because it's bad, it's just because it was written in like 1930 or something like that. And the way people wrote books back then was just so different.
Yeah, true.
It's just like if it was written by someone today, that 398 pages would probably be more like 300 pages, I reckon, because they just wouldn't go into so much detail and stuff with a lot of things.
I have heard there's a lot of detail in his books, the way he writes. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Like it's why it's such a rich world, but it's also, like I said, like if you especially if you struggle to read at times, which I both do and don't. But like if I'm not in a mood to read, there's no way in hell I'll be able to read Lord of the Rings or even Game of Thrones, to be honest. Game of Thrones is just as bad when it comes to how like not bad as in badly written, but like so much in it'll be like, oh, this is the House Stark, and like it'll tell like the whole history of the thing before it even gets to the point of what the story is happening at that part. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yep.
The first time I sat down to read, I think the first book is called A Game of Thrones. I think it's because the actual book series is called Song of Fire and Ice.
Yeah, that's right.
And the first book I think is called A Game of Thrones. So when I first sat down to read that, I was just like, oh, it's another Lord of the Rings. The Hobbit is much easier to read because it's, like I said, it's more of a kid's book, and like he wrote the story and was like, hey, I've got a world here, I'm going to flesh it out. And I think his publisher wanted him to write another book as well because it did so well.
Okay.
So then he wrote the Lord of the Rings. There's actually things where like he's written Lord of the Rings, and then there's like, if you can get a copy of like the original version, there's like things that are different to like the more modern versions, because after he wrote Lord of the Rings, he like retroactively went back and like changed things so that the lore matched up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. And then there's the Silmarillion, and there's a couple of other books as well. Again, I'm enough of a nerd to know that they exist, but not enough of a nerd to remember what they're all called or what they're all about. I just know that the Silmarillion isn't so much like a story, more as it is like a history of Middle Earth.
Yeah. I did actually read that, it was his son that was going to try and finish it.
So whether it has been or hasn't been finished, like that is correct. Like he didn't get to finish writing the Silmarillion before he died. And I thought that, because you can buy it as a book, and I thought that it was just finished by his son and then released. So it's another point of contention, is like how much of it is actually canon, because it wasn't actually written by Tolkien. You know what I mean? Yeah,
true.
Again, nerdy, but not nerdy at the same time. It's my wheelhouse, baby.
Yeah, we're somewhere in the middle.
But yeah, so back to the original thing. How are you going with the Hobbit movies?
Good. So I've finished them all. Enjoyed them all as much as I always have. and I'm going to start on the Lord of the Rings one weekend soon and just watch those in order as well.
Are you going to be a coward, or are you going to watch the extended versions?
If I can find, if I can get access to the extended versions, I will watch them for sure.
I think with the extended versions, the total time comes to like 12 hours and like 40 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, true.
And like they're already long without the extra like 40 minutes each of fucking of cut footage and stuff.
Yeah. I'll see how I go. Like if I have them, and I probably won't watch them all in a day. I'll do like one every weekend or something.
Oh, man, I don't know if like I tried to watch the Nolan Batman trilogy back to back, and by the time The Dark Knight Rises was on, I was asleep, and like we started that early in the morning. Like I was just like sitting there for so long watching the screen. I was just like,
yeah, I forgot how long they are too. They are pretty long.
yeah, they're roughly 2.5 hours each.
Yeah,
and that's 2.5 hours as opposed to 3 to 3.5 hours each, not including the extended versions. Like,
yeah, true.
It reminds me of back in the day when I used to go to movie marathons, and like I'd think because there'd always be like that one movie that you didn't really want to watch, but you had to watch it because it was in in the theater with the movies you wanted to watch.
Okay,
So I'd always try and figure that. I guess like, okay, I want to see James Bond and I want to see this other movie. I'll try and nap during the second movie so I can make sure I stay up for the whole night.
That's a good idea. I don't think I actually ever went to a movie marathon.
They were the shit back in the day.
Yeah, I remember always hearing about them, but I think I just never happened for me for some reason.
I actually went to one here where we live. But not the. It was before that the actual cinema existed. It was at the old.
Yeah, was it like an old drive-in or something?
No, it was like a theater. Like there was two theaters, and they would like play movies there, like between like say 7-11 o'clock at night during weekdays, and then on weekends you'd go there and see like the ballet or whatever play they had going on.
Okay.
Kind of, yeah. And like dead set during one of the movies, an all out like food fight with like candies and what is it, like licorice sherbets and all that kind of stuff. And your husband might remember we would keep like crawling under the seats because people would be like dropping like $2 coins all the time. And we would go get them and then go up and get more lollies, eat half of them, and then throw the rest.
Why am I not surprised?
Yeah, I'm sure we've got a bunch of stories that I'd love to hear.
Yeah, well, we need to get him on as a guest one day.
Absolutely. Like my memory's so bad, and it always has been. And between the both of us, I'm sure we'll remember enough that will. You'll just be like, "What the hell were you guys doing?"
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That'll be fun.
Seeing as we're on the topic of movies, I have written down here that I was going to mention that I've been going through a bit of a phase of watching bad movies lately.
Okay.
Or movies that have definitely been considered bad.
Yeah.
To top the list, I'll mention Borderlands because that wasn't the first one that I watched, but everyone was talking about how bad it is, so I went and saw it. You know what? I thought it was fine. It's okay. Definitely give it like a 5, somewhere between a 5 and 7 out of 10. It was definitely not as bad as originally advertised.
Yeah, I would agree with that, actually.
Like, I went in thinking it was going to be absolute just trash.
Okay.
And, because it was just, like, it made, like, no money. No one went and saw it. And I was like, this has got to be so bad. I need to see this. Because just beforehand, we had watched Morbius. Like,
okay. Jared Leto? Is that right?
Yeah, and he's, like, kind of like a vampire.
Okay.
it's that Sony thing where they're like, oh, well, like we're going to use every Spider-Man character we own the license to and make a movie out of it, no matter how good or bad it's going to be,
Yeah.
just so that Marvel can't get the rights back.
Fucking petty, eh?
Oh, it's so petty. But like Morbius was bad. Like I'd give it like as a movie, I'd give it like a 2 or a 3.
Okay.
And for entertainment, I'm like, it's at least a 5. Like there was at least some decent stuff going on, like some cool ideas with just some really shitty like execution and stuff. And
Right.
there was a couple of bits where it's like you could tell that they were going to make it a bit more of like a horror movie, then they kind of pulled back on the idea a bit.
Okay.
It's like, there's no like blood and stuff, even though he's a vampire and he's like killing people and eating their blood and all this shit.
Really? Ugh.
Like I mean like there might be like a minimal about like whatever amount of blood you're allowed in like a PG movie.
Okay. Oh man, I feel like you need gore in those, kind of movies. I feel
100%, and it was the only downside to the first Venom movie was the same things. Like you could tell that they wanted it to be more of like a body horror movie.
Okay.
Then they got like scared last second, and like a lot of the violent scenes are like cut away from and stuff. And then with the second and assumedly the third movie, they've gone, okay, well, we just want it to be, as they say in America, PG-13. So they just made it as violent as they can without, blood and guts and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, so we just watched Morbius. There might have been another movie we watched around about that time that was bad, which might have sparked our interest in checking out some bad movies. So then we saw Borderlands, and then I made the mistake of watching Madam Web. Now, I am not going to go into it in this episode in depth, and it's going to be very hard for me to not do that because this was honestly one of the worst movie I've ever seen. Like, legit.
Okay, so I know you've been really critical of it, but you reckon it is the worst that you've ever seen?
I can't think of a movie that is worse than this in all aspects.
Okay.
Like I've seen movies, I reckon, from like the 60s that have better special effects than this movie.
Okay.
Obviously we're in a world where it's easy to put some special effects on some things and make it look okay. It's not like every single frame of it's bad, but they're considering like even I could probably jump on like Adobe After Effects and do some of the special effects that were bad in this movie. It's just like a spider in a jar didn't look real in any sense. It looked just like a picture of a spider pasted over an empty jar.
Okay.
Like it was so bad. And this is why I think we're going to have to get you to watch it, because I don't think I can do it justice. I don't think the hate from me alone would do enough justice to explain how bad this movie is. Like, it took me and Amber nearly 4 hours to watch it because we kept pausing it and just being like, why did that just happen? Or like, what the hell was that? Or like,
okay.
Or like rewinding it to be like, did we just see that like
like did that just happen?
Yeah, well, like we had to rewind it. It's like, did what we think we just saw actually just happen?
Wow. Okay. I know.
I can't. It's gonna come. It's gonna flow out of me. I cannot.
With how much you've like gone on about this movie to myself and some other friends, like you've definitely got me curious to watch it, to see actually how bad it is.
Like, we all know how much I love a Nick Cage movie, especially a bad Nick Cage movie.
Yes.
I think this movie would be worse than the worst Nicolas Cage movie you've ever seen.
Okay.
And he's made some shockers, like some actual clangers that are only good because he's in them.
Yeah, right. What about like I haven't seen The Room, but I've heard that's terrible.
But see, it is terrible, but it's a so terrible it's
Good? Okay.
situation because like basically The Room is just a dude who had a lot of money, decided he wanted to be a director, and made a movie.
Okay.
And like wrote a terrible script, and doesn't know how to shoot a movie and all this kind of stuff. Like this is a multi-million-dollar oh, how can I explain it? There are certain scenes that, like, when you watch a movie and there's like that thing that like you can kind of tell like you're watching a movie, like there's like a filter or something, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm watching a movie.
Yeah.
There are some scenes that legit look like they've been filmed on someone's phone, like a really good high definition phone, but on their phone regardless. There's like no field of depth or anything. It's just like someone's just recording their backyard party or something like that.
Now, there is a term for that. So I think it's to do with frame rates, I'm pretty sure, or something like that, with how when they're actually like recording the scenes, it's recorded a certain way. So it's actually different to say someone actually just recording something that's happening in front of them, like on their phone or like a camera.
So there's definitely that side to it. So it's like whatever camera they used to film like these, because like most of the movie looks like a movie, but then certain scenes will just be like, what the hell?
Okay.
So like maybe because they usually have what they call a second unit, where like the main cast are off here filming a big major scene, and then they'll have like another team with like a secondary director off at another location just shooting like filler or like B-roll stuff, or just minor stuff where it's like the characters don't even need to be seen because it's like just a car coming down a driveway or something like that.
Okay.
So maybe the scenes in question are done by like the second unit, but when you like I reckon I'm going to try and figure out a way to record us watching this movie, because I think that your reactions to some of this stuff, like I'm going to be hating on it. I think like again, like I'm burning with rage right now just thinking about it.
Yeah. Okay.
It has to be watched, but then I'm also afraid that like if somehow this podcast had the power to make people like make it popular again all of a sudden, that they might make a sequel and make a worse movie.
Are you saying you want that to happen or not?
I'm saying I don't want, like, I don't want that to happen. Not that we have enough listeners, but imagine we made that happen.
Oh, okay. And then everyone's decided to go and watch it, and they've had this spike of like interest, and they're like, oh, we've made enough money, we should do another one.
Do you remember the internet did that with Morbius? They tricked Sony into releasing it at the cinemas twice.
No.
Yeah. So like it went to the cinemas. It was terrible. Did badly, but like I think it came out when COVID was still really big, and like there was still like a lot of restrictions and stuff in America.
Okay.
So the internet basically, they twittered up and was like, "Oh, we need to release it. Like we loved it. We just couldn't see it because it wasn't." They basically tricked Sony into releasing it at the movies again, and then it bombed even harder the second time.
Wow. That is like savage.
The internet is a foul place, but sometimes I love the hell out of it.
It makes me wonder too, like companies like Sony who would have the money to, have really good writers and directors and, all of that. How are they making movies like this?
I dead set think that they just tried to make it as cheaply as possible. I reckon most of the budget was spent on the actresses because there's some like high profile actresses in it. And I think they literally just got kids fresh out of like fucking film school and went, here's your chance, make a movie.
Okay.
That's what it feels like. Like there's so many. I need to stop talking about it. Yeah,
okay.
Otherwise, what's the point of having an episode?
Yeah.
Or like having another thing. If I tell everyone about it now, then they're not going to bloody go watch it, are they? Or they're not going to watch us watching it. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's true. All right, yeah, that that will be definitely another episode, I reckon.
Yeah,
On its probably on what's
yeah.
on its own.
Oh, once I get started, oh my god! Especially if we record fresh after having just watched it.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea, actually.
Like I'm gonna be so heated. Like, you know, I don't. Oh.
Yeah. All right. So we
I'm
should.
I'm gonna move on because I've got another bad movie I watched just the other night.
Okay. What was that?
It's called Immaculate. It stars of all people Sydney Sweeney, who also happens to be in Madam Web.
Yeah. I think I said this to you the other day. Like I have not seen anything with her in it yet where she was like actually being a good actress. It was pretty shit.
Well, all I can say about her in Immaculate is that she wasn't the reason the movie was bad.
Okay.
That's all I can say. It's like, I'm not saying she was like Oscar winning or something, but she definitely wasn't a terrible actress in the movie. There was way more terrible things going on. Like the plot, if you've seen it, it's basically like a redone version of Rosemary's Baby. She's a nun, goes to the church. Turns out the church is trying to have the devil's son or whatever, and she becomes immaculately pregnant.
Oh, okay.
And blah blah blah, and that's all well and good, but the storytelling is just like, you know, especially if you've seen a movie like Rosemary's Baby or with a similar style movie that's done better, and then you watch this and you're just like, oh. Like it's meant to be a horror movie and it had maybe like 2 jump scares, and that was kind of it. Like one of the nun, like there were these like evil nuns, they're the cult nuns or something, and it looks like they're just wearing stockings on their face. Like they're meant to be looking like they have no face or something, I think, and maybe they are just meant to be having like stockings on their face so you can't see who they are, but it just looks like a bunch of nuns with stockings on their face. Like it doesn't look scary.
Okay.
The best thing about the movie was in the very first scene, this chick gets her leg broken, like like she gets through a gate or something and they grab her by the leg and break her leg.
Right.
And I was like, oh, like it was pretty gory. I was like, oh, damn, like it's going to be that kind of movie. And then there was like one more gory scene later in the movie or something. Like that was it.
Oh, that's kind of disappointing.
Yeah.
Like it, you know, opens up and maybe gives you some hope that it's going to be good, and then it sort of lets you down by the sounds of it.
Yeah, like, again, it's not on Madam Web level of bad. Like, there was things to enjoy about it. Like, again, Sydney Sweeney's acting wasn't the worst thing about it. The plot was semi-interesting. Like, it kept making me want to watch it even though the movie was bad, because I was like, oh, maybe it's going to go somewhere that I'm not expecting it to go or something. And
okay.
It didn't really, but and all that. Like, you know, it's probably around Morbius levels of bad. Like, as a movie bad, but like probably like a 5 or so out of like for entertainment.
Okay.
Like I know 5 should be like average, but like realistically, like 7 is really like an average movie these days. Anything lower than a 7 or a 6, and that's when like 5 is the absolute minimum for like an average movie. Anything lower than a 7 or a 6 is like you're starting to get to like actual bad territory.
Yeah, okay.
Which I know is ironic because I said I would give Borderlands somewhere between a 5 and a 7, but again, it depends on what you want from the movie, because if you want it to be the worst thing about the movie is that the plot isn't like the game. Not exactly, anyway. They've kind of smushed plot ideas from like all 3 games into the one movie.
Yeah, that's true.
So if you're watching it because you're like, oh, you know, if you liked the Last of Us TV series because it was pretty close to the game, you're not going to like the Borderlands because of that. But if you just go in like, Like when the first Transformers movie came out, everyone was like, "Oh, it's not like the comics or the cartoons or whatever." But then everyone kind of got over it and was like, "Oh, it's just its own thing and it's entertaining on its own right." Like if you go into it with that kind of attitude, it's like, oh, I'm just watching a thing based on a game that I like, rather than going, I want it to tell the exact same story. Like you can have a bit of fun with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, I found out later that because it's directed by Eli Roth, and he made a very gory version of it, and the studio executives apparently freaked out and got someone to recut it and take out like all the gore, which is why my favorite thing from the movie from Borderlands is the when she throws a bomb or something, and instead of you seeing bodies explode or whatever, because that's obviously what he recorded or filmed, you just see like a big screen wipe of a grenade, like a explosion. It's like
Yep.
it's like you know when you watch like say the Phantom Menace, and it's like it swipes to the left every single time, and it's like it's really noticeable because like it just keeps happening. It's the same kind of thing with Borderlands. They keep doing these kind of wipes when it's like, oh, someone's probably going to lose an arm here, like they just got exploded or cut with a blade or something, and just as it happens, it like does some kind of like weird transition to the next shot, and like you know that they were like, we don't know how to hide the gore, let's just fucking fill the screen with an explosion. That should do it.
It's kind of frustrating though, because like that's another movie we've mentioned now that they had intended to have the gore in it, and then they've had to figure out later on, like post-production, how to not have that in there. It's like, well, why have the idea of having it there in the first place if they're not going to have it in the movie?
With Borderlands, to me, it's like, why the hell did you hire Eli Roth if you were just going to like decide to cut out the gore? Like,
yeah,
I don't think he's done one movie that is not gory except for Borderlands, and it wasn't like, you know, we'll probably never see the Snyder cut, as it were.
Yeah,
because
true.
They probably just won't release it. I reckon if the Eli Roth cut came out as was, because apparently it was like recorded, edited, like all done, ready to go, and then the executives saw it and were like, "Nah, we need to recut this film so it's like." You know, it's almost like they haven't heard of like Deadpool. They're like, "Oh, we can't make a gory movie and make money." Like,
which is silly. I feel like it'd be way more entertaining, and a lot of people would probably more enjoy it.
well, it would suit the style of game more. Like Borderlands is a gory game.
Yeah,
and like people were complaining about Claptrap's jokes as well, but I'm like, like, you know, they were corny, but when you play the game, his jokes are corny anyway. Like maybe they're a little too corny, but
yeah,
I don't know.
I
It
thought
didn't bother
Claptrap
me
was
as
okay.
much. Yeah, it didn't bother me as much as some other people. It bothered some other people. Like it was a little bit lame, but to me, it felt like the right humor for that. Like because in the game, he's a bit more like self-aware and like, oh, we're in a video game, and like, oh, you got to push this button to do the thing. And obviously, they can't make it quite the same. So I thought the humor lined up.
Yeah,
but the gore factor did not.
Yeah.
And with what I was going to say as well is that with Morbius and Venom, I can't be sure that that's what happened. That's just what I assume happened because like I'm watching the film and I'm seeing like where the cuts and the edits are during certain things, and I'm like, they probably.
I feel like
wanted to make it less gory and stuff, but with the Eli Roth one, with Borderlands, like it's like a confirmed thing. Like,
yeah, okay. I feel like
he's pretty pissed about it.
I feel like that's not the first time I've heard that with Venom. And maybe that's you that's told me that previously as well, but I have heard that before.
It's possible. I do tell the same story over and over again. I'm surprised these podcast episodes aren't just me telling the one story, like for 52 episodes a year or whatever.
I'm sure it'll happen.
It's gonna repeat. The only lucky thing for me is that there's always new shows and games and stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
So hopefully we won't just keep coming back to Madam Web. And like speaking of Madam Web to a degree, we were talking the other day about like having like a rating meter for movies.
Yes.
and we were talking about the Nick Cage game. Apparently, it's already called this on the website that you showed me, but we were talking about like the Cage gauge or whatever.
Yeah.
Like instead of having like a rating between 1 and 10, like pick like the worst movie, the best movie,
And like
and
in
a
the
few in
middle.
between.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like it's gonna be hard because out of 107 movies, like, you know, how do you pick? Like, do we rate it? Do we rate everything out of 107? Also, like the top like 8 of his movies are all 10 rated. So it's like, if we say a 10, do we pick just one out of those movies, or do we like randomize between the ones? Be like, it's a 10 with the picture of the movie. Like, anyway, my point is now that I'm thinking about it, it should be rated from like the best Nicolas Cage movie to the worst Nicolas Cage movie, and then Madam Web.
All right, so she is like literally bottom. That movie's like bottom.
It is so bad. I can find joy in so much, like people be like, oh, this game sucks, this movie sucks, that show sucks, and like maybe I do think it's not good, but I can find some like there was a show that Amber wanted me to watch, Grim something. I can't think of the name right now, but like the plot line was all cool. It was just the dialogue to me sounded very much like I was watching like The Bold and the Beautiful. It was very sort of like hammy, forced dialogue.
It wasn't Brothers Grimm, was it?
No, it wasn't. It's got the dude from Internet, the dude who plays Pennywise.
Oh, okay.
Hemlock Grove. It's not Grimm, sorry, it's Hemlock Grove.
Right.
And like I watched a couple episodes of it, and it was cool, it was interesting. It was kind of like a supernatural thing, hunting werewolves or something like that. Don't shout at me if I got it wrong. It was a long time ago. It was a long time ago that I actually watched it, and like I was enjoying the story and what was happening, but the dialogue, I just couldn't get past the dialogue. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
So I wouldn't be like, oh, it was a bad show. It was just like, oh, I just, like reading a Tolkien book. It's like I just can't get past the dialogue. It's so hard. Like,
Okay.
But I think that only. I'm not even going to bring it up because this is what happens. It comes up, we mention it, and then it is now the basis for anything bad in a movie or a TV show. Madam Web.
Yeah. Okay.
I can't talk about something being bad without it somehow coming back to Madam Web right now. I did not think that movie could be as bad as it is.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I don't know why I'm so keen to watch it, because it sounds fucking terrible, but I'm like, I need to see this.
It is so bad. I can explain it, but like you have to experience. I think I was saying it the other day as a joke, where it was like, I need everyone to watch it so that the world can be filled with as much hate as I am. There'll be no more world wars because all of our hate will be collectively thrown into Sony and Madam Web, and we will unite under a one world government, and there will be finally world peace will be achieved.
All right, I like the sound of that.
Yeah, but to what consequence? Do we, yeah, like we might achieve world peace, but then everyone in the world has seen Madam Web.
Yeah, it's like at what cost?
Yeah, what have we done? There'll be a few people who will snap, I reckon.
It'll just be like this whole collective trauma.
There'll be like a dude who was like, he had a bad day at work, his missus has been yelling at him, or a chick, whatever. So, they've had a bad day at work, their partner's been yelling at them. Like they stubbed their toe on the way in the door. They sat down. They went, you know what? I'll give this Madam Web movie a watch, and it'll just be the thing. Like the kids are screaming in the background. They're in all this debt. They'll turn on the movie, and by the end of it, like it'll just be the thing that snaps them. It'll be the thing that makes them just, boom. That's it.
Just like full breakdown.
Full postal. Full like get the shotguns out. I can't handle this world anymore, and I'm taking everyone with me. On a better note, movies that I thought that was going to be bad, that was actually not too bad. The Watcher.
Okay.
Do you know anything about that movie?
No.
Basically, a young woman who is actually Dakota Fanning, which is like weird because I can't think of her as anything but a little kid
I
most of the
know.
time.
It's so weird seeing her grown up, hey?
I think she's done a movie recently where there's like a nude scene. I'm like,
Oh.
I can't. That's pedophilia. But it's like, but oh wait, no, she's like 28 now. Like,
Yeah, fuck.
it's okay. But anyway, she goes to Ireland or something to do with a parent's death or something, and then she ends up in the middle of like a forest, and then it turns out that there's things that watch them, and like every night they have to be inside this like shed looking thing that has like a one-way mirror in it. Like they can't see out, but they can see the watchers can see in, and plot happens, things are learnt, ending happens and stuff.
Okay.
It's actually directed by the daughter of M. Night Shyamalan.
Shamalamalan.
And I was like, okay, this should, like, I mean, I love M. Night Shyamalan movies. I actually went through his movie list the other day to see all the movies that he's done, and I was like, there's really only one or two movies in the whole list that are actually like bad. Like the Avatar movie, the last Airbender movie was bad.
Okay. I didn't even know that he did that.
Yeah, watchable but bad. And I think there might have been another one, but like out of the entire list, there actually wasn't that much that I was like, he actually hasn't made that many bad movies. It's just that his first three movies were The Sixth Sense, Signs, and Unbreakable. And when you have a trilogy of movies to start your career that are that strong, you're going to get judged harshly if the next movies don't live up to it.
Yeah, true. Man, I remember The Sixth Sense and Signs, like, fucking, they were so good. I don't think I've seen Unbreakable, to be honest.
But you've seen Split and Glass?
So I've seen Split, but I haven't seen Glass. But I knew they were they're all connected or a part of the same universe kind of thing.
Like, you don't need to have seen Unbreakable to see Split, but you definitely need to have seen at least Split to see Glass, I think.
Okay. All right.
Because if Glass was the first one that you watched, you would definitely be just like, what the hell? Because they all tie in.
Okay.
But Split only ties into Unbreakable like at the end, like right at the end when you find out like, oh, it's actually in the same universe as Old Mate.
Okay. Yeah.
Outside of that, it doesn't matter.
Okay, cool. Yeah, well, it's only Split that I've seen, so.
And it's probably the best one out. Well, Unbreakable's really good, but Split is just better.
Okay.
Like when it first came out, again, The Sixth Sense, Signs, Unbreakable, three great movies, like 8, 9 out of 10s, all of them. And then they did The Village, which I still thought was great, but like it's, it wasn't as good as the other three. And then more and more movies started coming out that just weren't quite living up to what people expected,
True. I did actually like The Village as well.
So did I.
Yeah.
The ending was a little bit but it wasn't the worst ending. It wasn't the worst ending. It was just like, it was a little bit of a like maybe they could have done something more with it to make it more impactful or something. But other than that, it was fine.
Yeah.
And one of the only ones that he's done, because like I've seen Old recently, Knock at the Cabin is actually M. Night Shyamalan as well.
Okay.
It's not his own original story though. I don't think it's either based on, well, Old's based on a graphic novel, and I think someone else wrote Knock at the Cabin with him.
Okay. Old has me intrigued, but I haven't watched that yet.
It's like a solid 6 or a 7 movie. It's good premise, some good acting and stuff, just nothing special.
Okay.
It's like it's what I would recommend watching.
Okay.
And Knock at the Cabin's the same, except I'd maybe rate it somewhere between a 7 and an 8
Okay.
because it's just like a little bit overall better of a movie.
Okay. Cool.
But yeah, one of the only movies of his that I haven't actually seen is The Lady in the Water.
I don't think I've even heard of that, to be honest.
It like flew under the radar because it came out like after The Village, and everyone was kind of like, "Oh, he sucks now." But it's like a mermaid or something lives in his pool, and there's another world. Like I don't know enough about it. It's just one of the movies that I definitely haven't seen.
Okay. I actually watched Argyle the other day.
Yeah, I've been very scared to watch it because I love Henry Cavill, and I'm like, I hope this isn't like the movie that ruins him for me.
Okay. Well, I love Henry Cavill as well. Like I will pretty much watch anything that he's in. So, and I love a good spy movie. So I was like, well,
Yeah,
I think I'm going to enjoy it, and I really did. It was really good.
Isn't the premise that they think the cat is Argyle or something, and then but like he's like he's the secret agent, but they think that the cat is or something like that.
No, so pretty much the main plot line is you've got Ellie Conway. She's an author. She's writing these spy novels, and Argyle is the main character of the novels.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
And it's like exactly what Henry Cavill's been doing. They're like, how do you know all this stuff?
Yeah, so pretty much she then has like 2 different agencies chasing after her because they're like, this is actually happening in real life. Like, as you're writing it, like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
And they're sort of in a race to find something important. So they're actually trying to figure out through her how to get to this thing.
And they think the thing is the cat.
No, the cat is actually just like a fun add-in.
Oh, so it's barely even a part of the movie. Like it's not even really part of the plot.
Like,
they just make it seem like it is.
Yeah, she has the cat with her when she gets sort of like pushed into a wild chase. And
right.
Yeah, it sort of, I guess, ties in with I guess like a twist at the end, but it's not like very important to the storyline.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's nowhere near as important as they make, because like all the advertising and shit like points out the cat,
Okay.
and that's part of the reason why I've been like, because like sometimes when whether they've got a bad movie deal or they just make a bad decision, they end up doing some kind of like a movie with an animal and it just ends up not being good.
Okay. Yep.
I thought it was going to be like one of those things where it's like, oh shit, he's done like a Netflix deal or something, and they're like, because you didn't do The Witcher, you have to do this movie for us. And I'm like, oh no, it's going to be one of them.
No, definitely not. It's got some good twists towards the end. Like I'm usually pretty good at picking out where storylines are going. This one I actually didn't really pick. I think there was one thing at the end I was kind of like, oh, okay, I can see where this part's going. But yeah, overall it was good. Had some like, like sort of puzzles where they're trying to find clues to get to this thing, and
a little bit like National Treasure.
Yeah,
kind of.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So which I love that sort of stuff. And lots of action and chases and things like that.
Yeah, just a fun movie.
Yeah.
Like that's all it has to be. Like I'm a little bit sick of this culture of like every movie and every TV show has to be like a 10 out of a 10 and blah blah blah. Like I get it. You want to, we've only got limited time. You want to spend your time watching the best of the best sometimes, but it's like, not everything has to be the best thing you've ever seen. Like
God, no.
Like I don't watch Scary Movie because I think it's the best comedy around. I watch it because I'm just like, I want to watch some juvenile shit right now.
Well, yeah, that's like for me, like watching shows and movies is like a way to sort of, I guess, disconnect and just be entertained for a couple of hours. So
I'm 100%. I
Yeah.
was going to say this before because you were like, oh, sometimes I can usually tell where the plot's going. Like, I usually can too, but I'm usually pretty good at like kind of just turn my brain off and being like, I'm just enjoying this movie for what it is.
Yeah.
And that's why some movies really like, it's like, I'll be sitting there going, oh my God, like, it's so signposted what's going to happen that I can't, like, even with my brain turned off,
Yeah,
I
it's
can
so
still tell you.
obvious. Yeah.
I'm like, oh. Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, look, I'm the same. It doesn't have to be a masterpiece. I think as long as there's like I'm sort of engaged and I'm connecting with the characters, I'm going to enjoy it.
Like, legit, one of the reasons why I watch bad movies is because it's like the movie itself is bad, but the storyline is interesting. And I'm like, I just want to know what happens next. Like, I don't care how bad the movie is. I just want to know where the story is going.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
How was she possessed in the first place? Who killed the daughter? I need to know.
All these really important questions.
Exactly. I imagine that, like, shows like Desperate Housewives and stuff. It's like, it's trash, but you just need to know, like, what's the next trashy thing.
Yeah.
Like, I remember watching Melrose Place with my ex.
Oh my God,
like,
that's a fucking blast from the past. Holy shit.
Yeah. She would watch it while we're going to sleep. So, like, as I'm falling asleep, I'd be just like watching random episodes.
Nice.
Like random parts of episodes. But I'd be like, oh, he didn't do. No, he didn't. Like,
oh no, he didn't.
Like, just getting sucked into it because it's just such a it's just such trash that you're just like, oh, what's happening next? And like, I'd wake up like the next morning or whatever and be like, oh, what happened after this part? This is where I fell asleep.
I think I actually got sucked into Bold and the Beautiful when I was younger for a bit too. Like, I'd come home in the afternoon and put it on.
I would definitely watch it. I wouldn't say I was sucked into it, but I would definitely watch it.
I think, honestly, I'm not
what was that?
picky, but reality TV is probably the only thing I can't get into.
There's very few reality TV shows. One of them that I used to like watching was The Block, maybe. I don't know. It was the one where it was one where every week they went to a different couple's house, and like that couple wouldn't do any work on the house, and all the other couples would have to pick like a room and like.
Yeah, I don't think that was The Block. It might have been like My House Rules or something.
Yeah, I think that was it. My House Rules.
Yeah, that was actually pretty good.
I didn't mind that one, and I don't mind some of the cooking ones sometimes, and the Is It Cake show. I can enjoy a bit of Is It Cake.
Okay, I haven't actually seen that, but that would be fun.
And there's another one called Nailed It, which is basically like, hey, like a big fancy like make this big fancy cake with all these different layers and stuff, and like really fancy like decorations, and then they have to try and get it as close as possible. And sometimes the way they do it is like, firstly, sometimes they just look terrible, nothing like the thing it's meant to look like. And then secondly, sometimes it's like they're almost literally like gluing shit on to make it look as close as possible.
Yeah, right.
But outside of those kind of couples, like, I think I used to watch that Tattoo reality show back in the day.
Yeah, actually, that was something that I did watch as well, if I could.
Yeah, but outside of those few things, reality shows I basically stay away from. If you ever see me watching a reality show, it's usually just because it came on somehow, and I was too lazy to change the channel.
Yeah, noted.
Oh, except Wipeout, that was also.
Actually,
I wouldn't say it's a reality show. It's more of a game show.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
It was fun for like a season or two, and then eventually, like, there's only so many times you can see people bouncing off giant balls before it sort of stops getting as funny as it used to be.
It. Yeah, it gets too repetitive after a while.
Great times. But I reckon we ended up there though, because I just can't. I can't think of a way that I'm not going to bring this back to Madam Web somehow if we don't stop soon.
I knew you were going to say that.
I we're talking good stuff, and then all of a sudden I'm just thinking, oh, that bad part from Madam Web, that's the opposite of this part from Madam Web. Like, that's how Madam Web should have done that part.
It's like burnt into your brain, I swear.
Like, I do have a terrible memory, and I reckon I could recite, if not the dialogue, scene by scene what happened because it was just
Wow.
so bad. Like I reckon maybe I couldn't just predict where the plot was going because it was that nonsensical.
Yeah,
it,
right.
it was it was both predictable and unpredictable at the same time because you'd be like, oh, like surely they're going to do this, like it's so predictable, and then they wouldn't do it, and you'd be like, what? And then but then the thing that you thought was going to happen would happen like a couple of scenes later where it doesn't make sense, and you just
Oh.
be like, what?
Oh
What?
my god.
See, look, it's happened again. We need to get off this. We need to get off this podcast. We need to stop recording,
Yeah.
and we'll say goodbye to everyone. Thank you for listening to us. And if you want some real Madam Web hate, be prepared because it is coming.
Yeah.
It might be the longest episode we ever record, especially if it happens to be like a watch along, because there'll be so much pausing happening.
I can't wait.
Oh my god. Thanks for listening, guys.
Bye, guys.
We will be back.
Yes, definitely.
Bye.
Bye.